Who is the best soldier in the world? Well, for years, according to Israel, the world's top combat soldier was a man named Emmanuel Moreno. The Israeli lieutenant colonel served in one of the IDF's most elite units, sayeret, matkal, and the operations he was involved in were so sophisticated and secretive that even today, years after his death, his photo is still not allowed to be released to the public. Today, young Israelis from around the country learn about Moreno by visiting a special memorial in his honor, but the special site is soon set to be demolished. Joining us today with more is professional tour guide and educator Aviad Amitai. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So to begin, tell us more about Moreno, who, the world's best soldier. What does this mean? Tell us all about it.
Well, when you envision the world's best soldier, you probably envision Rambo with a lot of muscles and a big, strong guy. Emmanuel did not look and appear anything like that image that people have of the number one soldier. He was a small guy. You wouldn't even notice him that he is that kind of guy. But his incredible talent was his mouth, his brain, and his sophistication. So this is the kind of person that you don't measure by our standards of a soldier that you envision, the muscular one, but a smart one, the Jewish mind.
The Jewish mind. So, there's so many top fighters in the IDF, obviously. The Israeli military is known for its strength. But why was he specifically viewed as the IDF's number one soldier for so long?
Well, again, I think it has to do with what I mentioned before, that the typical soldier, the Israeli typical soldier, we did a lot of training in the past with Marines, and they always were bigger and stronger than us. But we always used to beat them in the drills that we did together. And they didn't understand how it is. Has to do with the Air Force training and with the infantry. But Emmanuel was something different because he was the guy that used his brain to do all kinds of sophisticated missions. If it was in the training, there's legendary stories about how he did in his training course.
Yeah, tell us one of those stories.
Well, one of the stories that I think that we can say, there was a mission of navigation, that each soldier in the unit had to actually come first, of course, to gather a couple of navigation points. And that's a very, very difficult training. You walk by yourself for about 20 miles a night, and you have to be the first one and also getting all the coordinates right. And they say you can do whatever it is, all means count, just to get the job done.
All means necessary to get the job done.
Whatever is necessary to get the job done. And he did it. He camouflaged himself in the jeep of his commander. And when the commander was there, the first at his side, he was able to smuggle himself out, get there with all the waypoints. And in the end of the day, when he reported how he did it, he said, listen, he said, all measures are legitimate for this mission. And this kind of different kind of thinking was what was unique to Emmanuel. He did things beyond imagination. Obviously, as you mentioned before, most of the things he did are not allowed for the public to know. I don't know much about it. I know a little bit from people that are close to him, and that's also too much. And of course, things that we cannot say about. But he did some incredible things. And the fact you're not allowed to show his picture today is because if people will know who they thought he was, it will be a big problem. So it's really national security.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, how did he pass away?
Emmanuel was actually the last victim of the IDF in the Second Lebanon War in 2006. When the war was already declared over, the ceasefire was already in place. They had a special mission in the northern part of Lebanon, in Baalbek. I can't talk about the details, and I don't know too much to say, but I can tell you that he was sitting in a certain position in the vehicle, and there was an encounter with the army, either the Lebanese army or Hezbollah, and he was shot. He was the only casualty of that operation. They brought him back, and he was pronounced dead at the end of the operation. It was a terrible, terrible loss, and even his superior commanders did not want him to participate because he was such a great asset. But he did not even think twice. He was there. He was the kind of leaders that was not leading from the back, from behind the screens, but he was the first people to follow him. Acharai, follow me.
Now, today there's a memorial in his honor. Who established it? Where is it? And who are the people that are visiting this memorial?
So the memorial we're speaking about is a memorial which was established several years ago by a good friend of Emmanuel and Ezra Asher. His name was Menachem Gertler. He lives in our community in Netiva Avot, Elazar, Gush Etzion. And the three of them were good friends from childhood. Ezra Asher, Emmanuel Moreno, and Menachem Gertler. And Ezra Asher was killed in Lebanon in an ambush in 1993. He was in the paratroopers. In 2006, years later, Emmanuel was killed. And Menachem Gertler, living in that position, in that place in Gush Etzion, decided to commemorate both of these soldiers. He mentioned to me, he's a very good friend of mine, he mentioned that the unique quality of both of them was their humility, their humbleness. And he planted a vineyard in their name. He erected a beautiful balcony to overlook the Patriarch's path. And he built a beautiful monument which has the picture of Ezra Asher and, of course, a shaded picture of Emmanuel Moreno because no one can actually show his picture.
Wow. Now, this memorial, from what I understand, is under a major threat right now. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the threat is actually quite absurd. This whole story is that there's a Supreme Court lawsuit which was filed by the national left-wing peace movement, Shalom Achshav, which actually... Peace Now.
Yeah.
They actually found some Arabs that claimed that they own the land. And this has been undergoing in the court for over 8 years now. Unfortunately, about 5 months ago, the Supreme Court decided that the lawsuit would be accepted, and they claimed that these Palestinians, represented by Shalom Achshav, a Peace Now organization, do have claim for the land, even though they were not able to prove any kind of title. The monument sits on one of the spots which they claim that is privately owned land by Arabs. The only claim and the only proof was some kind of aerial footage from the 80s that proved that this land was cultivated. Other than that, there is no title for the land, and there is no one that can actually claim it. It's not that if the monument is going to be destroyed tomorrow morning, some Arab family is going to come and claim the land, cultivate it, or build a house. Therefore, it's a lose-lose situation, and that's why we're fighting so hard in the memory of these two soldiers to respect them.
Well, we can only hope that, this memorial is going to hopefully be recreated somewhere else in the country, if there's some way that you guys protect it from being destroyed. But thank you so much for coming in and telling us about this hero.
Thank you very much. We hope the memorial is going to stay, and we believe so, and we'll do our best to keep it that way. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.